All right, everyone, get ready. From the historic halls of castles to the quiet corners of suburban homes, America is rich with tales of the paranormal. Join us as we uncover some of the most haunted locations in the country. Our first stop takes us to the heart of Kentucky, to a place called Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Now, this isn't your friendly neighborhood clinic. Imagine a giant looming building perched on a hilltop, shrouded in mist and mystery. This place has seen some things, man. Back in the day, it was a tuberculosis sanatorium, a last resort for folks battling a deadly disease. Thousands upon thousands of people died within these walls, and let me tell you, that kind of suffering, it tends to linger. People say the air is thick with the echoes of their pain, their fear, their desperation. You can practically feel the weight of their sadness pressing down on you. It's enough to make even a hardened skeptic like myself start looking over his shoulder. Now, I'm not saying that every creak and groan you hear is a restless spirit. Could be faulty plumbing, could be the wind whistling through the broken windows. But then again, there are stories, see? Stories of shadowy figures flitting down the hallways, of disembodied voices whispering from empty rooms. People talk about feeling cold spots, sudden drops in temperature that send shivers down your spine. And the eyes, man. Some say the eyes follow you. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be caught alone in this place after dark. It's like stepping into a horror movie, only this one's all too real. Whatever's going on at Waverly Hills, it's definitely got my attention. And maybe, just maybe, it's got something to do with the spirits of those who never quite left. All right, let's hop across the pond for a second to a place called Goodwood House in Delaware. Now, this place is about as far from a rundown sanatorium as you can get. We're talking sprawling estates, manicured lawns, the whole 9 yards. But don't let that fool you. Even fancy folks have their fair share of skeletons in the closet, or in this case, a gray lady roaming the halls. See, legend has it that a young woman dressed all in gray haunts this grand old house. Some say she's a scorned lover, forever searching for her lost love. Others whisper that she was wronged, betrayed, and now she wanders the halls seeking justice. Or maybe just a decent cup of tea, who knows? One of the most common stories you hear is about a mother desperately searching for her lost child. Some say she was a servant at the house, and her child tragically died while under the care of the wealthy family who lived there. Now, whether she's looking for her baby, her lost love, or just a listening ear, one thing's for sure. The Gray Lady has become synonymous with Goodwood House. People claim to have seen her gliding through the corridors, a wisp of sadness and longing in her wake. Is she a harmless spirit, mourning a bygone era, or is there something more unsettling, lurking beneath the surface? Guess we'll have to keep digging to find out. All right, let's ditch the sunshine and happy vibes for a second, because we're heading to Fall River, Massachusetts. Picture this, August 4th, 1892. It's hot, even for summer, and tensions are high in the Borden household. Why, you ask? Oh, just your average run-of-the-mill double homicide. Andrew and Abby Borden, Lizzie's parents, are found brutally murdered in their own home. Andrew's got the business end of an axe introduced to his face, and Abby, well, let's just say the phrase 40 whacks gets thrown around a lot. Naturally, everyone's looking at Lizzie. I mean, it's always the quiet ones, right? The trial was a media circus. Newspapers ate it up, everyone had a theory, and the evidence? Let's just say it was like a game of Clue played by pigeons. Messy, confusing, and nobody really knew what was going on. So, Lizzie's acquitted. Not enough evidence, they said. But the rumors? They never stopped. Some say Lizzie did it, driven by some unknown motive, maybe a bad batch of clam chowder, who knows? Others say her ghost walks the house now, unable to rest with the crime unsolved. Visitors report cold spots, disembodied footsteps, and the feeling of being watched. Maybe it's Lizzie, still trying to clear her name. Or maybe it's the ghosts of Andrew and Abby, seeking their own brand of spectral justice. Whatever the case, the Lizzie Borden house remains a chilling reminder that some mysteries are better left buried. Unless you're into that sort of thing, then by all means book a night in the murder room. Just, sleep with one eye open. From one haunted Massachusetts location to another, because apparently, the Bay State loves a good ghost story. This time we're trading axes for flickering gaslights and creaky floorboards at the Red Lion Inn in Stockbridge. Now, this place is picturesque, like straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. But beneath the quaint exterior lies a history steeped in spooky tales and unexplained phenomena. Built in 1773, the Red Lion Inn has seen it all. Revolutionary War soldiers, traveling salesmen, and probably a few ghosts picking up room service. Over the years, guests have reported all sorts of strange goings-on, from disembodied voices to objects moving on their own. One of the most active spots in the Red Lion Inn is rumored to be room 301. Legend has it, this was the favorite room of a lady named Harriet, who's basically the inn's resident ghost celebrity. Guests claim to have seen her rocking in a chair, felt her presence in the room, and some even say she likes to tuck them in at night. Now, I don't know about you, but a ghostly tuck-in sounds more creepy than comforting. But Harriet isn't the only ghost hanging around the Red Lion Inn. There's also talk of a mischievous spirit who likes to play pranks on guests, hiding keys and moving furniture. Look, I appreciate a good prank as much as the next guy, but I draw the line at a ghost rearranging my suitcase. Okay, we're on a roll here with Massachusetts hauntings. I'm starting to think they put something in the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. This time we're checking into the Omni Parker House in the heart of Boston. Now, this hotel has seen its fair share of history, and I'm not just talking about spilled room service trays. Built in 1855, the Parker House has hosted presidents, celebrities, and apparently a few permanent guests who checked in and never quite left. From the moment you step into the grand lobby, there's a certain energy to the place. Maybe it's the history seeping from the walls, or maybe it's just the ghosts. One of the most famous residents of the Omni Parker House is the ghost of Charles Dickens. Yeah, you heard me right. The literary giant himself. Apparently Dickens loved this place so much he decided to stick around after his death. Guests and staff have reported seeing his apparition wandering the halls, muttering lines from A Christmas Carol, which, honestly, depending on the line, could be festive or terrifying, but Dickens isn't alone. There's also the story of a former guest who committed suicide in room 313. People claim to feel a sense of dread in that room, and some even say they've seen the man's apparition staring out the window. So yeah, maybe request a different room if you're ever staying there. I'm all for adventure, but I'll pass on the ghostly staring contest. Alright, let's set the scene. Picture this. Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Beautiful place, right? You've got these Ozark Mountains, Victorian architecture, and this hotel that looks like it stepped out of a spooky postcard, the Crescent Hotel. Now, this place wasn't always a luxury getaway for folks looking for a spa treatment and a ghost or two. Oh no, it used to be a tuberculosis sanatorium. And let me tell you, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, tuberculosis wasn't exactly a picnic. So you've got this building, right? Full of people battling this awful disease, and sadly, not everyone made it out. It's like a recipe for some serious spooky vibes. People started reporting all sorts of strange happenings, seeing apparitions of patients and even doctors roaming the halls. And you know what that means? Ghost hunting time, baby. This place is crawling with paranormal investigation teams trying to catch a glimpse of the other side. I'm talking EMF readers, EVP recorders, the whole 9 yards. One of the most famous residents of the Crescent Hotel is Michael. They say he was a stonemason who helped build the place back in the day, and he apparently took a little tumble, like a fatal tumble. Now, Michael likes to hang out on the second floor, particularly around room 218. Guests have reported all sorts of strange stuff happening in that room. Lights flickering, doors slamming, you name it. Some even say they've seen Michael himself, just kind of chilling, doing his ghostly thing. And it's not just Michael. There's also Theodora, a nurse who apparently worked at the hotel during its sanatorium days. She's known to be a bit of a mother hen, even in the afterlife, looking after guests and sometimes even tucking them in at night. Though I gotta say, a ghostly tuck-in would probably be more alarming than comforting. But here's the thing, right? With a history like this, who can blame these spirits for sticking around? I mean, it's a pretty sweet gig, haunting a luxury hotel in the Ozark Mountains. Plus, the Wi-Fi's probably killer. Okay guys, buckle up for this one. We're talking about the Perron family and their charming little vacation home. Just kidding, it was a nightmare factory disguised as a farmhouse. This place, located in Harrisville, Rhode Island, is practically synonymous with paranormal activity. In 1972, the Perron family moved into this unassuming farmhouse, and let's just say they didn't get the warm welcome basket and a plate of cookies. Instead, they got a heaping helping of paranormal terror, served up daily. We're talking about the whole shebang here. Disembodied voices, objects moving on their own, even reports of the kids being levitated. I mean, can you imagine trying to make breakfast while a ghost is flinging your spatula across the kitchen? Talk about a bad morning. The family claimed that the house was haunted by a whole bunch of spirits, some benevolent, some not so much. There was Bathsheba, a suspected witch who lived on the property in the 1800s. And let's just say her parenting methods were questionable at best. Now, if this story sounds familiar, It's probably because it was the inspiration for one of the scariest movies ever made, The Conjuring. Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigators, were called in to help the Perron family deal with these unruly spirits. And let me tell you, the Warrens had their hands full with this case. They conducted numerous investigations, documented countless paranormal events, and even attempted to cleanse the house of these entities. Did it work? Well, that's up for debate. The Perron family's experiences at the farmhouse have become the stuff of legend, inspiring books, documentaries, and of course, that terrifying movie franchise. But the question remains, were the Perrons really tormented by malevolent spirits, or was it something else entirely? Some skeptics point to environmental factors, stress, or even the power of suggestion as possible explanations for the events at the farmhouse. But hey, I'm just here to present the facts, or at least the alleged facts. You can decide for yourself whether this farmhouse is a paranormal hotspot or just a really old house with some creaky floorboards and a bad case of the drafts. Alright folks, get ready for a story about family drama, tragedy, and enough spooky shenanigans to make your head spin. This is the story of the Lemp Mansion, a beautiful historic home in St. Louis, Missouri, with a dark and twisted past. The Lemp family, they were like the Kennedys of St. Louis back in the day. They made their fortune in brewing, specifically that sweet, sweet nectar known as beer. Their mansion was the place to be, all lavish parties and good times. But behind the gilded facade, there was a darkness lurking. See, tragedy seemed to follow the Lemp family like a shadow. It all started with the death of William J. Lemp Jr., the heir to the brewing empire, who died by suicide in the mansion in 1904. Talk about a buzzkill. This was just the beginning of a string of untimely deaths in the family, many of them by suicide, and all occurring within the walls of the Lemp Mansion. And you know what they say, where there's tragedy, there are bound to be some restless spirits hanging around. After the Lemp family vacated the premises, the mansion was turned into, you guessed it, a hotel. And let's just say those guests got a little more than they bargained for. Reports of strange occurrences, unexplained noises, and apparitions became commonplace. Guests and staff claimed to have encountered the spirits of the Lemp family members, still trapped in the mansion and unable to find peace. There's William Jr., still carrying the weight of his sorrow, and Elsa, William Sr.'s daughter, who also died by suicide in the mansion. Some of the most haunted areas of the mansion include the Lemp family's private bowling alley, where laughter and the clatter of pins have been replaced by an eerie silence, and the attic, where a hidden staircase leads to a room that's said to be particularly active. The Lemp Mansion stands today as a chilling reminder of a family's tragic fate and the enduring power of the past. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying that this grand old mansion holds a certain allure, a magnetism that draws in those seeking a glimpse into the shadowy recesses of history and the mysteries that lie beyond. Alright, ghost enthusiasts, buckle up because we're heading across the pond to jolly old England. Don't let the tea and crumpets fool you because we're diving headfirst into one of the most infamous paranormal cases in history, the Enfield Poltergeist. Picture this, 1977, a seemingly normal house in Enfield, London. Inside, the Hodgson family, single mom, 2 daughters, 2 sons, just trying to live their lives, completely unaware they were about to become the stars of their own paranormal reality show. We're talking furniture moving on its own, disembodied voices, objects flying across rooms, the whole 9 yards of spooky. The 2 daughters, Margaret and Janet, were at the center of it all. Imagine being 11 and 13 years old and suddenly your house is possessed. But the Hodgsons, they stuck it out, probably because moving companies charge extra for haunted furniture. Word got out, and soon the Enfield Poltergeist became the talk of the town, even attracting the attention of paranormal investigators and of course the media. Newspapers ate it up, headlines screamed about the Enfield horror, and suddenly everyone was an armchair ghost hunter. We're talking levitation, objects materializing out of thin air, the kind of stuff that would make even the most skeptical person sleep with the lights on. And trust me, I've seen some stuff. But this case, even I have to admit, it's pretty freaking creepy. A poltergeist or a prank? Now, I'm not one to shy away from a good haunting, but even I have to admit, the Enfield case is a head-scratcher. Was it a genuine haunting by a mischievous, maybe even malevolent spirit, or were these 2 young girls pulling the wool over everyone's eyes? Because let's be real, kids can be pretty convincing when they want to be. The evidence is compelling, I'll give you that. Photos, recordings, even eyewitness accounts from police officers who swore they saw objects moving on their own. But then there's the other side, the skeptics. who pointed out inconsistencies, possible trickery, and the fact that, well, kids love attention. They claimed the girls were just bored teenagers looking for their 15 minutes of fame, and boy did they get it. But here's the thing. Even with all the skepticism, even with the possibility of some good old-fashioned teenage shenanigans, there are still those unexplained events. Those moments that make you wonder if maybe, just maybe, something truly strange was happening in that house. Was it a poltergeist, a mischievous entity feeding off the energy of those young girls? Or was it all just an elaborate hoax? Honestly, who knows? But that's the beauty of the paranormal, isn't it? The mystery, the unknown, the endless possibilities. And that, my friends, is why we love to be terrified. From the suburbs of London, we're hopping across the pond again, this time to the shores of South Carolina. And no, we're not here for the beaches or the BBQ, though I wouldn't say no to a pulled pork sandwich right now. We're here for a different kind of history lesson, one that involves a Civil War fortress, a ghostly apparition, and a whole lot of speculation. That's right, folks, we're talking about the White Lady of Fort Sumter. Now, Fort Sumter, as you history buffs know, was the site of the first shots of the Civil War. Talk about a dramatic start. But beyond the cannons and the bloodshed, there lies a story whispered in hushed tones, a tale of love, loss, and a restless spirit forever bound to the place where tragedy struck. The story goes that a young woman, heartbroken over the loss of her soldier husband, took her own life within the fort's walls, her grief too heavy to bear. Some say she was a Confederate wife, desperately awaiting her husband's return, only to receive news of his demise on the battlefield. Others claim she was a Union sympathizer, torn between her love for her Southern home and her loyalty to the North. Whatever the truth may be, her spirit, forever clad in a flowing white gown, is said to roam the fort's ramparts, a ghostly sentinel forever mourning her lost love. Visitors and park rangers alike have reported seeing her fleeting figure, a wisp of white against the weathered stone, her mournful cries echoing through the corridors. Is she searching for her lost love, or is she doomed to walk these lonely ramparts for all eternity? Voiceover. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a simple man with simple needs, pizza, comfortable pants, and a good ghost story. And the White Lady of Fort Sumter, well, she checks all the boxes. Over the years, countless visitors have claimed to have encountered her spectral form. Some describe a feeling of overwhelming sadness, a coldness that chills you to the bone, as if the air itself is heavy with grief. Others claim to have heard her mournful cries, a haunting melody carried on the wind, a lament for a love lost too soon. And then there are the photographs, those eerie images captured by unsuspecting tourists, showing a hazy white figure where no figure should be. Coincidence? Trick of the light, or something more? Look, I'm not saying I believe in ghosts, but I'm not saying I don't believe in ghosts either. What I am saying is that there's something undeniably eerie about Fort Sumter. Maybe it's the weight of history, the echoes of battles fought and lives lost, or maybe, just maybe, it's the lingering presence of a heartbroken spirit, forever searching for peace within those weathered walls. Whatever the explanation, the White Lady of Fort Sumter remains one of America's most enduring ghost stories, a chilling reminder that sometimes love and loss can transcend even death itself. From haunted sanatoriums to Civil War fortresses, we've journeyed across America, uncovering the stories behind some of the most chilling paranormal hotspots. Are these just spooky tales spun to send shivers down your spine? Or is there something more to these hauntings, something that defies logic and explanation? Are these encounters with the supernatural, or can they be explained away by creaky floorboards and overactive imaginations? The debate rages on, and honestly, that's the way I likes it. Because at the end of the day, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, one thing's for sure. These stories offer a thrilling glimpse into the unknown, a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. Have you had a paranormal experience? Share your stories in the comments.